Okay, let's start with this pretty striking image from our sources. Imagine a body. It's cold, lifeless. Maybe the heart hasn't beaten for years.
Yeah, quite a visual to kick things off.
And then you imagine replacing all the decayed organs, new ones, maybe artificial, maybe transplants. Would that person, come back?
And right away, the sources hit you with the deeper question, would the soul return?
Exactly. It's this almost gothic thought experiment, like you said.
But it's not just fantasy, is it? The sources show this is an ancient question, but wow, does it feel relevant now with science moving so fast?
Absolutely. So for this deep dive, we're looking at materials that really wrestle with this. How do they define life and death when physical restoration maybe might be possible?
And what does that mean for, well, reviving someone? Is just rebuilding the body enough?
It forces you to think beyond just biology, doesn't it? Is there something more fundamental?
Definitely. Are we just the sum of our working parts? The sources seem skeptical.
So let's dig in. The sources start with that hypothetical swapping organs in a dead body to sort of challenge our basic ideas.
Right. They ask, is life really just a heartbeat? Just breathing?
Or, as the text puts it, does it need memory, consciousness, and a soul?
Yeah, and they contrast that immediately with the, standard medical definition of death.
Which is pretty straightforward.
Very. Final stop of heart, brain, breathing. Done.
But then they loop right back to the hypothetical. If science could make perfect artificial organs, even transplant a brain,
Would that actually count as reviving the dead, according to these sources, or does it just expose what that medical definition misses?
and that's where they bring in some, well, fascinating historical parallels to show we've been thinking about this stuff for a long time.
Exactly, like the legend of Faust.
Yeah.
Medieval times.
Right. Faust makes a deal with the devil, offers up a dead
He
body.
says, bring him back to life. I'll give you my soul. Classic.
But the sources point out this really chilling detail. The body does get up, it walks.
Yeah, but it wasn't the person. It was, and this is the quote, a body walking without a soul.
So animation, yes. Person, no. That's one potential outcome explored.
But they don't just stop there. They also bring in an ancient Japanese legend, the Tsukumogami.
Ah, the spirits in things that are 100 years old.
That's the one. And in one story, these spirits apparently cobbled together a body from dead parts, claimed it lived.
Okay, but here's the twist in this one, according to the sources.
The body was alive, sure, but its soul was described as evil, burning with hate.
So Faust gives you no soul, Tsukumogami gives you a bad soul.
It seems like what the sources are doing is using these myths to say, look, people have always worried that just fixing the physical body isn't the whole story.
Right, the fear that something vital, soul, consciousness, whatever you call it, might be missing. Or worse, corrupted.
That maybe the physical form and, well, who you are can be separated.
And it's tempting to dismiss these as just old tales, right? But the sources argue that modern science is actually forcing us to confront these very same questions again.
Yeah, they point directly at things like cryogenics, biological freezing.
People being frozen after death in Russia, the U.S.
As the source material details, yeah.
Yeah.
With the hope that future tech could, thaw them out, fix the damage, bring them back.
But, and this is the key thing, the sources keep pressing.
Does that somehow solve the ancient problem? Does freezing and hoping for future tech get around the soul question?
The material brings it up right after mentioning cryogenics.
Yeah.
That same nagging question.
But does the soul return? The sources are really blunt about this.
They frame it as the central unanswered mystery hanging over all of this, whether it's legend or lab work.
It's the big unknown. They even say that nobody dares to answer it.
And the way they describe the soul, it's not just brain function.
No, not at all. They explicitly call it divine matter. Something outside science, basically. How could that be put back into a body? They say, well, nobody knows.
Which, brings us right back to where we started, that initial hypothetical.
But now with all this added weight from the legends and the modern science attempts.
So if you could replace everything, heart, liver, kidneys, even the brain in a dead body, who or what ends up living there?
And the sources outline the possibilities, and they're pretty stark, aren't they?
Yeah. Would it actually be the original owner? Same person, same identity?
Or maybe some other consciousness. Another soul entirely.
Or, and this echoes those myths, maybe the most unsettling idea.
The body just walks around, animated but empty. Soulless, like a zombie, essentially.
It really is a profound question they'd leave you with. Science might get closer to fixing the physical machine.
But these sources are really emphasizing that the core mystery, consciousness, identity, the soul that seems to remain completely out of reach, it's the same puzzle people were pondering millennia ago.
So wrapping up this deep dive, based on what we've looked at, you really feel this tension.
Yeah, on one side, you've got the incredible potential of science, maybe rebuilding bodies, restarting them, pushing the very definition of death, like with cryogenics.
But the sources constantly pull you back to the other side, this enduring mystery of the soul.
Presented almost as this separate divine thing beyond what science can measure or manipulate, something the legends understood, perhaps, in their own way.
It leaves you with this really provocative final thought, straight from the sources. You look at the old legends, the soulless walkers, the evil spirits, and then you look at modern cryogenics.
And you have to ask, if a body could be physically put back together, physically restarted, does consciousness, does identity just automatically come with the hardware?
Or is it something else entirely? Something that maybe remains a complete mystery?